Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is part 2 of a video we're doing with Andrew Zufall. He's a classmate of mine and he's our class representative. Real quick, if you can reintroduce yourself, where you went to school, Andrew, and also a little bit about yourself as well.
Sure, yeah. Thanks for having me back, Michael, for part 2. Like you said, my name's Andrew. I go to Western. I'm also D2 like you. Let's see. I went to University of California, Davis for undergrad. Loved my time at UC Davis. Such a cool school. If you've never been there, it's a really fun town, and highly recommend the farmer market on Saturday morning. After that, I worked for a couple of years in the dental field, and then as an assistant, and then as a registered dental assistant. And then after that, I went back to school for a Post-Bacc at Oregon State in Corvallis, Oregon. And then after that, I worked as a registered assistant for another year, and then I started at Western U. And so I go to Western, and along with my wife Lindsay, who's a second-year vet student, and my younger brother Blake, who is a first-year med student in the DO program. So we all go to Western U together.
As mentioned in the part 1, Zufall Dynasty. That's what we're calling.
Well, we're trying. We really like getting to kind of chase our goals and dreams together, and as you know, like having a support system makes it a lot easier. And so having the two of them to do school with is definitely a lot easier than doing it by myself.
Definitely. Well, there's a reason why I wanted to talk to you. You're a multiple time applicant, meaning you applied more than once.
Yeah, that's putting it gently.
Yeah, there was a story that I was just blown away with once you got accepted into Western U, and then how Lindsay, your wife, got accepted too. But yeah, I wanted to go into that a little bit. I guess the best place to start out would be upon graduating Davis, how many times you applied, maybe what your GPA was around that time, and how you quote unquote fixed everything to get into dental school.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. It's actually interesting. When I had to kick my brother, that's his desk, I had to kick him out of the room to do the Zoom call with you. He asked what I was doing, and I told him about your YouTube channel, and he'd heard about it. And so I pulled it up really quick just to show him like kind of what you do and what type of videos you have, because he hadn't really looked at it, even though he knew you were a YouTube celebrity. That's what I tell him.
Oh, thank you.
And so your top video is the one where you talk about how you got into school with a 2.9 something GPA. It's really funny because that is also my GPA at UC Davis was 2.9 something. So it just kind of made me laugh when I saw that this afternoon when I pulled up your channel, that you and I had a really similar undergrad experience and kind of a similar journey getting to school, about not giving up and making yourself better to get into school. So like you alluded to, I did apply multiple times. I applied 4 times. So I applied 4 times, went to 1 interview, and got 1 acceptance into dental school. So that's definitely not ideal. I don't recommend that.
But that's all it takes, right?
But
you get that 1 interview.
I'm here. Look, I have teeth on my desk. I'm a real dental student.
Makes you official. Yeah.
And so I just could, no patient is ever going to ask how many interviews you had, you know? They're going to ask like, how well can you care for me, and how well can you fix my teeth, and how well can you fix my smile? And so I'm not really ashamed that it took me a while to get here. My journey is my journey, and I wouldn't be the person I am without it. But yeah, 4 times is a lot. It's definitely not the recommended journey. So yeah, I graduated with a 2.9 something from Davis. Failed OChem my fair share of times. Just was one of those situations looking back where I was just way overcommitted. I was taking hard classes for dental school applications. I was dating Lindsay, and obviously like having a committed relationship takes time. Definitely worth it, 100% worth it, but it takes time.
Let's get that in the video for sure.
Yeah, Lindsay, happy I did it.
Yeah.
But it just takes time to be in a relationship with someone. You have to commit time to hang out with them and spend with them, which is good, but still another commitment. I was really involved with a Christian group on campus called Crew. It was like a social Christian group. Super involved with that, which again, I'm really thankful for. It was a great time and really was important to me, but very involved. And then I had a job at campus security, doing security for like concerts and football games and basketball games. And I would drive the little van and give people a ride from the library to their dorm at night, that kind of thing. And so again, I was a supervisor there. Really happy I did it. Like, it was an amazing experience. Some of my best friends in undergrad were at that job, but another big time commitment. So looking back, it was a series of really good things I was involved in, but just too many at once.
Mm-hmm.
And so something has to give. And unfortunately, it was my grades that gave. They gave.
Yep.
And so I had a low GPA leaving undergrad, but I was a very optimistic young man. And I said, I am still going to get in because they're going to give me an interview, and then they're going to meet me, and I'm going to be their best friend, and they're going to give me a spot in their class. It's going to be great.
They're going to look at all your extracurriculars too. And
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, who cares about grades? Like, don't you see I was a supervisor at work and a leader in my club, and like I have all these friends. They're going to love me, and they didn't love me.
Yeah.
They probably screened my application, saw my GPA, and just set it aside. Because so many people want to go to dental school. You have to screen. You just don't have time to look at everybody if you don't use some sort of screening tool.
Yeah.
So yeah, I took the DAT as well, and I did okay. Average on most things, 17, 18, like not bad, but not good. Had a couple in the 20s, but nothing impressive.
Right.
So applied, didn't get in. Said, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go work. I don't need to worry about the grades. I'm done with school. I'm so burnt out from school. I don't like school. I need to work in the field. That's what they want to see.
Yeah.
So then I worked as a dental assistant, applied again. I was like, oh, I'm really going to get in this time. Because now I have
dental experience.
Yeah, I have a year of dental experience. I know there's 32 teeth in the mouth, and I know there's 20 baby teeth, and I can tell you what a prophy is. Like, I belong in school now.
Yeah.
And so I got rejected again. No interviews. All right. Yeah. So then I said, you know what they want me to get an RDA. If I have my registered dental assistant license in the state of California, then they're going to know I'm legit, because California will tell them I'm legit.
Right.
So I did the RDA exam. I studied for it. My boss trained me on some of the things that I didn't have any experience with. Passed the RDA exam, no problem. The written part, passed the hand skill part, no problem. Now I got a raise at my job. I got a certificate on the wall that says I'm legit, and now I'm for sure going to get into dental school. No way, I can't, right?
Yeah.
So I applied, all rejections. And I was like, oh man.
If you don't mind me interrupting, how many schools did you apply to?
Because Lindsay wanted to go to vet school, we had to be pretty particular about what schools we applied to. We only applied to schools that had the same program within an hour of each other.
Okay.
So that way we could live in the middle and drive like 30, 40 minutes.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So about 12 schools, 12, 13, 14. Yeah. So,
sorry to interrupt you there, but okay.
No, good question. So yeah, 12 or 13 emails saying we don't like you, we don't love you. So I was like, dang it, okay. So then I went to my boss, who was a big mentor in my life. He's the director of a federally qualified healthcare center that I was working at. And he was younger, like early 30s. And so he could relate well because he was only out of school for maybe 5-10 years. And so he told me I needed to come to Pacific, where he went to school, and meet in person with their admissions team and just go over my application. And so he was doing a lecture at Pacific one day about the differences of community dentistry and private practice, because he has experience in both. So I went with him and I met with the admissions people, and first thing they did is pull up my GPA, pull up my grades. Why did you fail this class? Why did you get a C in this class? Why did you get a B- in this class? Why is your GPA so not great? And I was like, oh man, this is not what I want to talk about. Let's talk about my RDA. You want to see my RDA license? I have the card in my wallet. But they weren't interested in that. They wanted to know why my grades are bad. So I talked to them about it. And then I met with a past dean at Pacific named Dr. Yarborough. And he is a good friend of my mentor, Dr. Nelson. He was one of the deans while he was there. And so I met with him, and it's funny, I maybe talked to him for 15, 20 minutes. And it was one of the most important conversations of my entire life. It was, I call him Yoda to Lindsay sometime, because he was just this older guy who talked to me for a second, and it's like he knew everything about me in our first minute of our conversation. So he literally just like looks at the application for maybe 30 seconds, puts it down, and he says, why don't you want to go back to school? And I was like, what do you mean? I never said I don't want to go back to school.
Yeah.
Well, you keep trying to do things to make your application better that you like. You clearly like talking to people. You clearly like working with people. So that's why you like working in the dental field, and you like doing it, but why do you keep doing it when it's clearly not working? And you obviously need to go back to school. And I was just like, oh,
Oh
He
man.
got me. Like, it was
Yeah.
so direct and so accurate that I couldn't tell him he was wrong. And so
Man.
I
Yeah.
said, honestly, Dr. Yarbrough, I don't like school.
Yeah.
And he said, I get that. But this metaphor stayed with me. He said, you have any dental application has two buckets, and you have a bucket that you can fill up with cups of water that are your academic experiences. You can fill it up with an A in OChem, fill it up with an A in physiology, fill it up with a B plus in anatomy, but you keep pouring into the academic bucket.
Mm-hmm.
And this bucket represents if you'll be a good dental student. Because as you know, dental school is hard and you need to have the academic chops to kind of handle it, right?
Right. Right.
And then he said, you have a bucket over here that you can fill up with experiences. And this bucket is how good of a dentist will you be? Not how good of a dental student, but how good of a dentist will you be?
Mm-hmm.
And he says, okay, you were in Boy Scouts. We'll pour in that bucket because you know how to work with people from your time in Boy Scouts. Okay. Oh, you're an RDA. We'll pour that in there because that means you know some dental stuff and you know how to work with patients.
Right.
And then, oh, you were a supervisor at your job. You're going to be a good boss one day. We'll pour that in. He said, you have two buckets and you can keep pouring, but eventually when you fill up one bucket, no matter what you pour in there, you can't fit any more water in the bucket.
Wow. I love that analogy. Yeah.
Yeah. So he said, your bucket for be a good dentist and like be a good all-around guy is totally full. Like, why do you keep pouring in it over and over when you obviously need to pour in the bucket that shows that you can handle dental school?
Right.
And that like just shook me right to the core because it was so accurate.
Wow.
So that meeting was in early June. By August, I had quit my job, packed all my belongings, and moved to Oregon to start classes at the beginning of September at Oregon State.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that was just a shift in that one conversation shifted your life entirely.
Oh yeah, it was so clear. Someone had to tell me that who didn't care if I liked them or not. Because when your family gives you advice, your family and your friends typically don't want to crush you, you know? Right. They don't want to tell you that you're wasting your life and you're actually afraid to go back to school because you're afraid maybe you can't handle it. Like, they don't want to tell you that.
Yeah.
But some random past dental dean, he doesn't care if you like him. He's going to tell you the truth.
Yeah. Man, shout out to UOP though. Like, honestly, shout out to them, because the person that did it for me also was the current Dean of Academic Admissions at UOP. And yeah, they really know their stuff.
Yeah, I'm super thankful for all the people at Pacific that helped me out.
Yeah.
I think I may have said I only got one interview. I did get an interview request from Pacific, but I had to decline it because Lindsay had applied to UC Davis, which is about an hour and a half away, and hadn't got in. And so there was no point for me to go to Pacific if she couldn't go to Davis. And so, yeah, super thankful. Anyone who is considering schools, Pacific is a really unique place and they really support their students well. And they had nothing invested in me. I was a random person with a crappy application, and they took a lot of time out of their day to help me. So I don't know anything about Pacific's program as far as being in it, but I can tell you from their admissions process, they do care about you as a person, and they helped me a lot.
Great people all around. Yeah. So we got to the point where you ended up going to Oregon. Yeah.
So what's super interesting actually is like a year before my talk with Dr. Yarbrough, Lindsay had said, we need to go back to school full time. Because Lindsay, she doesn't mind me sharing. She has a similar background, not great undergrad grades, fantastic extracurriculars, president and captain of the soccer club, you know, all that kind of stuff. Tons of work experience, thousands and thousands of hours working with animals, but not the best grades. So Lindsay, like a year before the Yarbrough thing, she said, we need to go back to school and get a post-Bacc or a master's. And I said, no thanks. Let's not do that. She was totally right. Yeah. So as soon as I have the meeting with Yarbrough and I call her and I say, we need to go back to school, she was psyched. So she immediately started researching programs, and so did I. I had a friend, a mutual friend, Dr. Baliwas, who some of you may know as SF Dental Nerd on Instagram. He has a similar background as me, went to Davis and did a post-Bacc. So he was really valuable in giving me advice because I was trying to do his model of getting into dental school. And so he pointed me towards University of Oregon. They have a good post-bac program. We didn't want to go to any schools locally because we'd get too distracted by our families. We wanted to go out, go to school, crush it, and get into school. There was no plan B because we were taking all this money out in student loans. We gambled on ourselves. I took a $50,000 loan out for this post-bac, and if I didn't get the grades to get into dental school, you can't pay back a $50,000 loan with an RDA income, you know?
Yep. Yeah.
So we wanted to be far away from family, so we'd be focused, and we wanted to be somewhere where we could be together. And so we also couldn't go to a UC because I had already taken the classes at a UC. And so it was going to be really hard to go to, say, UC Berkeley or UCLA when I already had taken the classes at UC Davis, and it was kind of be weird registering.
It would just make your application. Yeah, like you just said. Yeah.
So we wanted to be outside of the UC system and far from family. Yeah. So I kind of started to push U of O, University of Oregon, because that's where Dr. Balewas had gone and he'd had a really good experience. Lindsay did some research and found that Oregon State University had a really good vet program. And so I looked it up, and they also had all the classes I needed. So we decided to take a road trip to Oregon, and we visited U of O and we visited Oregon State. And we felt that Oregon State was a better fit for us given that they had the vet program. And it was just, the city was more of a vibe of what we kind of liked. So yeah, we decided to go to Oregon State, and all I had to do was register as a post-bac student, which was super easy. Like, just filled out a piece of paper basically, and they said, hey, you can pay a bunch of money to take our classes as a post-bac student, and you can take whatever classes you want. Right. And you'll have pretty low registration priority because we're not invested in you. But if you have a credit card, like, you can show up if you want. So that's basically what I did. I just showed up and made my own schedule. And
that was a year-long program, right?
Yeah. So it wasn't even a program per se. So some schools you kind of allude to have programs like a pre-dental post-bac or a pre-med post-bac. I know UC Davis has that. Right. But we, with our applications, I didn't need a lot of the low-hanging fruit classes that kind of pad your resume. I had done fine in those classes. I needed the hard-hitting sciences, and that's all I needed. So by doing the route I did, which was make my own post-bac program, I could choose what I needed to take. Now, if you're listening to this and you're considering a post-bac, you need to kind of weigh your options. If you want someone to guide you and you want a support system and you want someone who's going to help with your application, help write your personal statement, really guide you, I would really recommend a more structured post-bac program. Yeah. Now, if you're like me and you're a little bit older, you had some work experience, you knew exactly what you wanted, I liked that I got to choose what classes I did, because all I needed to do was take the classes I sucked at and not suck at them this time. Yeah. And so I took 3 quarters, so fall, winter, and spring quarters at OSU. Each quarter I took biochem, physiology, anatomy, organic chem, and then one other like science. Like I took a nutrition course, I took a infectious disease course, I took a medical terminology course, right? Just because I want to get my units a little bit higher. But man, taking all those at the same time was really tough.
I bet, yeah. But it's such a good point that you make, because one thing I always tell pre-dental students when they're looking at post-bacs is not to go into a post-bac and take all, like how AADSAS puts it, non-science courses. So like bioethics, you would think that would be a scientific class, but it gets categorized in AADSAS in your application as a non-science, and so really ultimately what you're doing is you're still filling the wrong bucket, even though you think you're filling the academic bucket. Yeah.
You're filling the wrong portion of the academic bucket. Yeah. Because my Davis, I don't know about you, but my Davis GPA non-science was like 3.3 or 3.4 or something like that.
Yeah, same. I think I had a 3.2 or something like that.
Yeah, so my non-science wasn't horrible. It wasn't so bad that it would prevent me from getting in.
Yeah. Actually, you know what? 2.9 was my science GPA. And my No. Was that my overall? No, 2.9 was my overall GPA.
Hmm.
So I had a lower science.
Yeah, me too. I don't even want to look it up what mine was, but it was lower than 2.9.
Yeah. Oh well.
Yeah, so I think just to speak on like my post-bac, if students are listening to this and they want to pursue my route, maybe they just really sucked at some hard science courses, or maybe they know exactly what they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that was hard for me is usually you don't take those courses at the same time. You don't take OChem, biochem, anatomy, phys at the same time as a normal Oregon State student. So taking them all at the same time meant some pretty crazy final weeks, some pretty crazy midterm weeks, because they're not expecting students to be enrolled in all those courses at the same time. So you might have all of your hard science midterms at the same time because they think that you have some non-science courses that are going to be the next day or the next week. So just be ready for it to be very difficult. Lindsay and I, we lived in the apartment really close to campus, so we could ride our bikes every day to school. So there's no reason to skip class or no reason to be late. We're like right there. And I'm not kidding, we studied 10 hours a day probably.
Yeah.
I would go to class, I would go for a run or walk the dog or go to the gym. My apartment had a nice gym, had a racquetball court. Lindsay and I play racquetball sometime. That was fun. Yeah. And then I'd study. Yeah. And the studying was intense. It was hard, but this is a pretty like vivid metaphor, but Lindsay and I use it a lot. Back in like the conquistador days, Cortez, when he sailed to Mexico, when they got to what is now Mexico, Cortez burned all his boats. He put his men on shore and he burned the boats. And he said, there you go, no way to go home, no way to back out. Now we're going to conquer this new land. Obviously, conquering lands is not good. Bad job, Cortez. But the idea that the way he motivated his men was by torching their way out really was motivating for them to make sure they listened to him and got the job done. So Lindsay and I, taking out this loan, we like burned our boats. Yeah. The only way was forward. There was no back. We had to do well. We had to get A's. So we worked really, really hard. Lindsay will be quick to tell you that she got a better GPA than me. Lindsay got all A's and all A pluses. I got all A's and 2 A minuses. So my 2 A minuses got me like a 3.96 GPA at Oregon State, and Lindsay 4.0 at Oregon State. So
and it also got her bragging rights for the rest of your life.
For a long time until I die, because she did better than me. So I got 2 A minuses and the rest A's. Best grades of my life. It's really interesting. I know I'm talking a lot, Michael. So
no, I appreciate it.
If you need to edit any of this out, go for it. I'll be mad. But
hey everybody, I decided to split the video up into 3 parts, so be sure to click the video above to find out how Andrew got into dental school.